Hello, everyone. My name is Diana Mayoko, and I have with me Sheryl Main, who is, I consider, an Uber publicist. Who was a unit publicist and worked with the International Cinematographers Guild. But she started her career on Moonlighting, and she started off as you started off as a writer's assistant, then you worked your way into post-production. So the questions we have here were submitted by our Facebook group, Moonlighting 21. And Joy, take it over. Take it away.
Okay. All right. All right. The story goes that you knew Bruce in New York City when he was a bartender at Cafe Central, and he was the reason why you got the job on Moonlighting. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I didn't know him as Bruce. I knew him as Bruno. I was working with Mickey Rourke at the time, who lived at the Mayflower. And so Cafe Central was at the Mayflower. And there was this crazy, funny guy who played the harmonica and had a band. I never saw his band, but anyway, his name was Bruno. And there was a club in New York at the time called Kamikaze. And Bruno also bartended there. So, I mean, we didn't hang out, but we had met several times. And so, yeah, I mean, I came out to LA. I was working and I needed a job. And someone said there was a new TV show with a new actor from New York, since I was just from New York, and that I might be interested, that they were looking for an assistant for him. And I was like, yeah, sure. I had been John Avildsen's assistant in New York. That was my actual first job in the business. He directed and won the Oscar for Rocky. So I had some experience as an executive assistant and an assistant to, somebody that was high profile. Anyway, I went and they said, this is, Bruce Willis. And I'm like, okay. And, so I'm sitting there and then Bruno walked in and I was like, what are you doing here? And he said, well, what are you doing here? And I said, well, I'm looking for a job and then it became clear that he was Bruce Willis. Yeah, so that's how Kismet. That's the way life kind of is sometimes.
So you never knew him over at Cafe Central as the bartender. You just knew him as Bruno Randolini with a harmonica in his band.
No, I did know him at the bar. That's where I knew him from.
But Cafe Central.
Bruno.
Okay.
Yeah, no, his name was Bruno. I never heard his name. I never heard Bruce. So yeah, so that's why it was just kind of, and I was new to, I had just come out to LA. I'm an East Coast girl. This was all very different. I'd worked on 2 movies in New York and I came out here and I worked on a couple movies and then this TV thing, which I'd never done before, it came up and I thought, yeah, why not? I mean, I wasn't going to turn down an opportunity. So, it was so random, but Bruce was great. He, was like, I didn't really want to be an assistant. I just needed a freaking job. I needed to be able to, I had to work. But he in turn, I wanted something more. I thought I wanted to be a producer. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but he talked to Glenn and then they hired me as the writer's assistant. Okay. So yay, Glenn and Bruce.
Absolutely. Was Bruce like the life of the party? Do you remember in New York?
Well, he was the life of the bar. I mean, people came to that bar because of him. There's no question about it. He was a funny guy and he was cute and he was really personable. And I didn't drink, but apparently he made a really good cocktail.
Nice.
Very cool. Very cool.
When you interviewed to be Bruce's assistant, why did you both think it would not be a good idea?
Mainly because I think he said, well, when did you come out here? What do you want to do? And, it didn't really align with being the assistant for an actor, and I think that's why when we started talking, he didn't tell me he was going to ask to have me put on the show. I got a call from, somebody at ABC Circle saying, would I be interested? And then afterwards I found out that it was him. So, yeah. Did that answer the question? I don't know.
Yes. No, it did. And so the next question, you became a writer's assistant. Go ahead. We have a message from one of them.
Did you ever?
Oh, Jeffrey. Oh. Yes.
Did you ever think to yourself that he would become a big star, Bruce Willis, that he was that talented?
Yeah, I think anybody who met Bruce would think that whatever he was going to do was going to be, big, like an action star. I can't, honestly, I never saw that coming, but talented. And, I never saw him on Off-Broadway, but apparently he was in a really, a play where his acting chops were clear. So, but yeah, no, Bruce had one of the je ne sais quoi. There was no question that it wasn't he just lit up a room. He owned the damn room. He really did. It was pretty hard because he was personable and he was a people person. He liked just being freaking goofy, It was pretty awesome, really.
The question with Jeff Reno, one of the writers you worked with was Jeff Reno, and he has a message question. Hi, Cheryl. It's been way, way too long. My question, in the very beginning, when you were still our assistant, you liked me better. Other than the other writers. And feel free to tell us why.
Yes, Jeff, you were my favorite. Oh, that's so awesome. Well, when I became the writer's assistant, honestly, I didn't know what that was. And because I'd never done that before. I'd worked with a director, So my first thing was to figure out what I was doing. And it was pre-computers, really. So they were typing scripts. And then, when you make revisions, it was cut and paste or retyping the whole page or, so it was really interesting. But I have to say that I was so fortunate because this was such a creative space for me to be in and to learn about where it starts. It starts, in the idea room, right? In the writer's room. And I was privy to that. And so, Glenn Caron was a genius and he still is. And one of the many of his great talents is that he could put the right people together. If he were a chef, he probably would have made the best soup in the world, using all different ingredients, because that's where we were at. I loved all of the writers. I had the best time with them, but like Roger Director was our Woody Allen. Carrie Aaron's storytelling, in fact, I worked with Carrie for the past 2 years on the morning show for Apple. And Roger, like I said, was our Woody Allen. And then Deborah and Carl, oh, I just loved them. I loved the way they worked. They were really symbiotic. Those two were in tune. Jeff and Ron, I love them so much because they were like a push me, pull me until they got together, and their creativity was their collaboration. For me, it took TV to a whole new level, seriously. Then there was Chick Egley, who I would never even begin to describe Chick other than to say that he was just very cool factor at Moonlighting, smart. And then Karen Hall was in a class by herself. I mean, she was genius, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
We have Atomic Shakespeare playing background.
Yeah, I see
Jeff
that.
Jeff and Ron's crown jewel of Moonlighting.
And rightly so. I mean, that's not TV. That's a whole other zone. And we knew it. And I think that was shot on the Universal backlot. I can't, this was so long ago, but I was just blown away by the scope and the size and the costumes and the music and the extras. I mean, you look at it, look at that. I mean, the detail, Jim and Gazy are designer. And then of course, Turteries with, his stuff for Cybill, and then all of our other, but you look at it and you go, now, that's filmmaking.
Yeah.
We were also shooting on film, so there's that.
Yeah, I describe it as every episode was like a mini movie every week, and they did all genres, or they combined genres in one hour show.
Yeah. That was the beauty of it, though. Is that things there? It was a mashup every day, all day.
As a writer's assistant, did you have any input at all, or you just did just help them organize pretty much and copy and pasting?
I think, I wouldn't say that I input, but I think I was kind of like, sometimes, they would run things by me just to see my reaction. But, writing, I wasn't a writer. So no, I was the facilitator. I think I helped them, do their work. So
Get the script out to the cast. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't as easy as it sounds, but yes, that was our goal. Always.
Yeah.
Any fun stories about the other writers that you worked with?
We always had fun. I know there's a lot around Moonlighting, and oh my God, it must have been awful or terrible at certain times. But when you work at that high level, there's always a lot going on, and I never felt any of it was really personal. I just thought it was all about creativity, and being in that kind of environment. But I don't know, stories, there were all kinds of crazy stories, but we did crazy things. We had the Curtis Armstrong Day Parade. I mean,
Yeah, I believe that was Bruce's idea, right? Just have some fun.
I think it might, I don't know the genesis of it, but I certainly was part of getting the one-man band. And, it was one of my greatest memories. Honestly, I loved it. It was, we had fun. We needed it too. They worked very, very hard. It looked fun. Having fun is hard, especially when you're creating a 1 hour TV show, with very high expectations and very high budgets and, high maintenance people. It's just the way it is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing in terms of the workload and just getting the shows ready to air, and people pulling out their hair. ABC, I'm sure, getting nervous a lot of times. Yeah,
but you know what? It's could we have done better sometimes? Probably, but no one set out to do only 12 episodes. That's for sure. Nobody set out to all the different things that happened. But we went with it, and we had really great producers. We had very committed actors. We did. So, it was a challenge though.
Mhm.
Your next role was in post production. What are your memories there? The challenges were legendary.
I
Mhm.
don't think I have memories because I think I was in a coma most of the time. uh, there was a certain amount of, well, again, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know anything about post production. And this is another thing about Moonlighting and Glenn Caron and Artie Mandelberg and,
Mhm.
the producers, Jay Daniel, and even Bruce and Cybill to an extent, is that if you showed interest in something, they go, well, okay, you want to, and that's how, with post production, I just thought it was fascinating the way the editors worked. I mean, my job as coordinator in the beginning was, it was a really great learning experience. Once I got into being post production supervisor, I realized that editors never sleep. They don't get much credit.
Mhm.
And when you have a supervising producer like Artie Mandelberg, who really understood it because Artie understood editing, and his brother Neil, and then Phil Neal, who, another one. It's so I got to learn a lot, and I'm a pretty fast learner, and but all those moving parts, it was a little crazy. I like a little crazy. I became a lot of crazy sometimes.
Mhm.
um, but I never walked away saying, ugh, ugh. I never did that. I walked away going, there's a difference, But for me, it was, I don't know, it was just a great experience. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, the stories about how crazy it was. Yeah, you stay up all night, you don't sleep, there's a lot of stress. If we, the story about having to like satellite it to New York.
Mhm.
That was stressful, but it was also kind of funny because it was so moonlighting. Just, and it is, um, but we did it, and I don't think I don't, I don't think the show would have been the show without some of that chaos that surrounded it.
Yeah, well, they were able to dodge the censors with that. Yeah, a lot of
She's been
times.
banged more times than a broken screen door.
Yes.
That one, or Bruce crawling on the floor going, just my luck, they have panties on. Can you
Yeah.
imagine that even getting anywhere near anywhere today?
Yeah.
Of course not. But the beauty of that was Cybill always being there to, kind of put a halt to it. But yeah, we were always pushing things, breaking the fourth wall, cold openings, doing a clip show in the middle of like no episodes. It just was moonlighting.
Yeah. It was experimental. You had to be experimental just to, get the episodes done almost. It was a very
That's
creative time.
I always saw it as an incubator, like a laboratory.
Mhm.
And in a laboratory, not every experiment works, but each experiment takes you somewhere. And that was moonlighting. Glenn made it because he dealt with Glenn and Jay, they dealt with the studios. They allowed Ron and Jeff and Deb and Carl and Karen and Carrie and everyone and Roger to just think big, and that to me was, I mean, that's extraordinary. It just is. I mean, I feel very fortunate.
Mhm.
Alan Arkus commented in our group that you lived for the pressure and that each
Yeah.
episode had your mark on it. What do you think he meant by that?
I don't know. But Alan Arkish, I can tell you that Alan Arkish, when he came on board, he changed the mood of Moonlighting. His sense of humor. I mean, I called him Ahmed, and I don't remember exactly why, but I do believe there was a fez involved. But he was just brilliant with the actors. I mean, I think I was committed, and at a certain point when Glenn was off directing and I was doing more of the music, and I was more involved in, like, I mean, I always felt like I was just there, and everybody else was being so creative that I just got to be creative too because of them. Kind of like a contact high, only, so I mean, I worked well under stress. Generally, I didn't fold, and I just always kept going until we were done. So I think, I don't know, but I loved working with him.
How similar were the personalities of Bruce and Cybill to David and Maddie?
Well, that's an interesting question, because I don't know. I mean, I didn't know Cybill. I knew her movies, obviously, and Peter Bogdanovich, and, I mean, Elvis. I knew all of that. Her modeling. I mean, she was, So I don't know what she was like. I know what she was like on set, and she was really. I had a great relationship with her. She was kind. She was generous. And Bruce. I think Bruce knew how to play his quirkiness to the max to create David. But Bruce, even as Bruno, I mean, it was always a little, smirky, because that's his thing. But I don't know. I mean, I think there's an element to every character that actors play. They have to tap into something, right? And I don't know, there's a certain humanity about what they both brought to these characters, I think. And, maybe that's how I think they were like their characters, that part of it.
What were your memories working with Bruce and Cybill? Like, I know you've mentioned it, but there's anything that really sticks out to you?
Well, I was inspired by them. I mean, I have to be honest. It's, watching them from, let's see, I came on season 2. Season 2 was a really exciting season. And I watched season 1, obviously, so I could get an idea of what the show was. But they, the way they grew, the way they worked together, the way that their dialogue crossed, but they never looked, it always looked so comfortable. And, she'd crack a smile and he'd crack a smile. And I don't know, I just, he was a very funny guy. She was, I don't know, they were very different people. Playing very different people. And you reveal yourself a bit in that. And I mean, for both of them, I mean, I think that I had a really great working experience. Bruce, through his kindness in the beginning, and also the way he supported everybody when we were going through some rough times. And Cybill, again, I mean, she just she was great,
Yeah, this is Every Daughter's Father is a Virgin playing, and the chemistry. Look at the chemistry.
I mean, there are scenes. That's why this is one of my favorite episodes. There was something where I don't know, the electricity between them, the way they spoke to each other. I really, the way they looked after each other. This scene where he turns around, and I mean, there's something there, you know. Sometimes Jerry Finnerman's, you know, like lighting would make me nuts. I'm like, who doesn't walk in a room and turn on the freaking light? You know, it was always so dark. But
He was adding a film noir feel to it.
every one of the episodes, I don't think it was necessary, but whatever. I mean, it was, that's just me, you know. Yeah.
This is the cold open for that episode. So brilliant.
Oh, this was hilarious.
Do you remember filming this particular cold open?
I do remember this, but
I heard what's it, McMahon was on set that day. The headband he has on, as he was Chicago Bulls football player.
no, he was McMahon was he was wasn't he a quarterback?
Yes. I can't remember. I'm blanking on his first name right now, but yeah.
So am I. I'm a football person. You know, you gotta. It was a few years ago, so I no.
Okay.
What was so cute about this is that they think that they're gonna, you know, answer all these different questions in the letters, and every letter is the same. Everybody wants to know when they're gonna kiss. Everybody wants to know when they're gonna kiss.
Yeah, and then when they finally kiss, everybody goes, "Oh my gosh, should they have kissed?" And then when they actually get together, it's like, okay, now what? I mean, but I love this. I do remember this because everybody got. It was just kind of funny, and you know, those two. This is one of those times when you just kind of realize that they really belonged together in terms of their characters. I mean, Glenn was so smart when he created the roles for them. He really was.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. What were your memories working with Elise and Curtis?
Oh, well, first of all, they are two of the loveliest people ever. You just fell in love with them because they were great and they were funny and they were fun. And Elise, you know, I mean, she had her baby while we were filming, and I mean, having Curtis on set, it was, you know, we had his parade, of course. But I think what I really, really admired about them is what they ended up doing was not what they signed up for. You know, no one knew that Bruce was going to go do a movie, Cybill was going to have a baby, and that these two were going to carry the load. And they did it with such grace and such commitment. And I think, you know, watching them every day, and, you know, it wasn't easy. It definitely wasn't easy, but they made it seem effortless. And that was partially due to their commitment, partially again to the producers and the director. And, but they, yeah, I loved them very much, very, very much. Great people, pros all the way. Yeah.
Do you have any memories similar to the behind the scenes bloopers of Cybill and Bruce joking around on set? Any practical jokes that you remember?
You know, I thought about that, and I really, I can't, I mean, I know, I can't think of anything that would be worthy of telling, sadly. Sorry that I don't have that, but no, that would be, you know, some, yeah, now one of the ADs would have more information than I would about that, because you have to remember I bounced around quite a bit between the executive offices set and then the editing rooms and the ADR stage. Oh,
Who's baby? Oh, that was the baby in the episode, I believe. One of the
Yeah.
Christmas episode, the first Christmas episode.
Oh, I love that show because we all got together and it was so much fun and it was just fun, that's the thing is that familial feeling is, I think, something that most of us who worked on the show felt. And that was kind of cool. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a great story of a knockout fight between Bruce and Cybill, or a big disagreement that they had?
I do not. I don't know that they had knockout fights, or did they disagree? Yes, but I always felt it was creative, not personal. Now, I did see a clip where Cybill said that at one point she hated Bruce, but I never believed that. And he never said that. I mean, look, again, anytime you work at the level we were working at with the, expectations, and it's not, it's a pressure cooker, and people have to decompress sometimes. And then there were circumstances that just, kind of tweaked everything. So I saw them argue over stuff, but it was never like, again, it was never personal. It was always about the creative process. So sorry about that. I'm not very, I keep thinking, do I know any juicy stories really? Maybe.
So obviously the cast was extremely talented. Do you remember any funny skills or hidden talents that the cast had, that you could share?
I think somebody was really good at hula hooping. I vaguely remember it, but I'm not sure. Maybe it was a crew person. No, once again, not really. Did anybody else have anything to say about any of that?
No. I mean, we know, we've heard, obviously Bruce knows how to play the harmonica, and he obviously showed it off in the show. It was just a fun question. Yeah.
I thought it was a great question. I thought, all these really fun questions, I don't really have an answer to, but
and we know Cybill has a great throwing arm. She could throw things because she used to play football with her dad, or throw footballs with her dad. So she got very good at throwing things.
Yeah, well, she threw a lot. I mean, that was, to me, that was one of the funniest scenes in Taming of the Shrew, or Atomic Shakespeare, when, there's a whole wall of throwing vases, and, that was just really funny, I thought, because it ties in, that was the other beautiful thing about Moonlighting, is that it reverted to something, in pop culture, or a movie from the 40s, or song, or, it related to so many things on so many different levels. You had the honeymooners, and Top Cat. It's just, what the heck?
Yeah, you have to be a child of a certain era, like Soupy Sales. You need to know who Soupy Sales is, or Jan Murray, Ricky Nelson. Throw out these names. Yeah.
Yeah, the Three Stooges.
I knew who they were talking about.
Yeah, you always hear, Bruce, with the Three Stooges thing. And anyway, yeah.
So, getting into seasons 4 and 5, which you worked through, do you have any, what's your opinion about seasons 4 and 5?
Yeah. Season 3 was so amazing. And then we started season 4 with the honeymooners, I think. A Trip to the Moon.
Yes.
That was the first one, right?
Mhm.
And it, it felt kind of good, and we were having some fun. But I don't know, for me, it just, I can't remember when we started to. I mean, I knew everybody was working really hard to keep things afloat. And we, like I said, we started out strong, but that claymation episode,
Mhm.
I think we were all, the creative minds did what they needed to do to make
Mhm.
an episode. And the claymation company, they were wonderful to work with. And, it
Mhm.
was fascinating from my point of view. But was that a Moonlighting episode? And so then we were reverting to phone calls, and
Yeah.
um, a show without the lead actors, who everybody turns their TV on every week to watch. If they're
Mhm.
not there, that's a little tough. And then look, we had the writer's strike. That was crazy. Then Cybill was pregnant. Bruce was doing Die Hard. So it was, 4 was tough. But we got Dennis Dugan, and I mean, there were some highlights. Uh,
Mhm.
season 5, I think we all started to feel like, hey, maybe we're getting back on track here. But we handled some topics um, that were pretty intense. I remember specifically, we did a montage that included shots of the Holocaust and all kinds of, I mean, it was.
Mhm.
I haven't seen it for a while, but I still remember, because I remember choosing the music for it, and I chose an instrumental from The Damned, and when they put the music to that montage, it just felt so dark to me, Um, so it was, listen, we were going through some changes, and
Mhm.
you know, season 5, everybody tried so hard. But yeah.
Yeah, it opened up with the episode of A Room with a View, which really dealt
Yeah.
with, yeah, and that's, after that ending, losing the baby, and yeah, it just, the tone just totally changed. It wasn't like you can go back to what the show was.
And did we need to see Bruce in a diaper? Seriously.
Yeah.
No,
It
no.
was, and I mean, I give them so much credit, because honestly, when we
Yeah.
were doing it, we really felt that it was the best way to tell that story.
Mhm.
And I'm not second guessing anyone, but I can't imagine. And again, I haven't seen it, but I will watch it. I don't think that really would hold up. And, I do remember Bruce climbing up the stairs to Sunny Side of the Street or something. Was that one?
Mhm. Yes. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that probably was after that, after they got through the baby thing in season 5, there was a spark again. Something was, you could feel it, that not only the characters went through a lot of crap, but the actors themselves
Mhm.
went through life, right? Something in their lives,
Mhm.
everything changed drastically.
Yes.
Um, and I think that they were starting to find what brought this whole thing together to begin with. And so I think that, kind of gave us, we all were looking for that. We were, listen, we were all very invested. I don't care what you did on that show. You were invested in it because again, it was that familial thing. It was that family that Glenn created and that Jay and Artie and everyone, made cohesive. It was so, yeah.
How did you feel about Maddie marrying Walter on the train?
My honest reaction was she would never do that.
Absolutely.
And no matter what, she just, Mark Harmon was one thing, but to actually spontaneously do that and then bring him back, and then that, that was rough. God bless Dennis Dugan, who I adore. But that was a rough ride. And man, I'll tell you, the fans did not hesitate in letting everybody know how rough that ride was.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it was a 1-2 punch between her marrying Walter and losing the baby.
Yeah, it was too much. And it wasn't
yeah.
Anyway.
We needed to breathe. And I don't think we were able to, because there was a lot of pressure.
Now, do you remember what episode you were working on when the show was canceled?
Well, I can remember that when we lost our coveted time slot, we were all like, okay, well, that's not good. I mean, that's not where you take your favorite show and put them on Sunday nights. So there was that. Honestly, I think at some point we saw the numbers, I think we were waiting for the other shoe to drop at any moment. And I mean, the way we handled it was what I loved most about Moonlighting. I mean, that the episode, and the actors walk on to their set, and it's being, we're done. You got canceled. I mean, that was pretty much it. But yeah, we weren't idiots. But I think because there was some positivity in season 5 that we could actually bring it back together, or we actually wanted to bring it back together. I don't know if anyone really thought we could, but I think because we had that kind of hope that, well, maybe they'll give us one more season, we can get our act together.
So was the show contracted to go 6 seasons and they just decided not to pick it up for the 6th?
That's a good question. I don't know. I couldn't tell you that.
Okay.
Have no idea.
Well, in one of the episodes, and I sent you a picture of this gown that Cybill was supposed to wear. There was the episode Perfect where they were planning to go to Paris.
Right.
But we never saw her wear the gown. I mean, do you remember this at all, the storyline about maybe they were supposed to end up in Paris and maybe get married, or have you seen this gown before?
I have not. I mean, obviously that was a Robert Turturese design. Who wrote Perfect?
Actually, I have to look at the.
Yeah, I don't remember who wrote it.
Let me see. I have my guide here. Actually, let me see.
Oh,
I have to tell you,
you are the maven of Moonlighting, aren't you?
Yeah, but when it comes to season 5, I don't know it that well.
Yeah, I worked on it, and I don't know it that well.
Season 5,
Yeah.
It's hard to watch. Okay, James Kramer and Chris Rubenthal wrote it.
Oh, I remember.
Story by Jeff Reno and Ron Osborne, but written by James Kramer and Chris Rubenthal.
Okay.
Directed by Jerry Finnerman. Yeah.
Okay, no, I don't. The gown was beautiful. I don't remember that storyline of them going
For planning
to Paris, but by then, I was in post production, so that was in the writer's room, and I probably wouldn't have heard about that.
Okay. Now, another question that a fan asked is, please tell us that it wasn't all that bad behind the scenes between Bruce and Cybill. I mean, it doesn't look like it was. I mean, there are some hard days, I'm sure, but
it wasn't.
Yeah,
it was. You know what? We laughed a lot. They worked really hard. there was no, I don't, they hung out on set unless they had costume changes or whatever. So, I mean, I know listen, I'm not an idiot. I mean, I worked in the executive offices. So of course, Glenn was getting crap from the studio, and things were happening individually in everybody's lives, and there was a lot going on. But again, it was a creative place where people really tried to take care of each other.
Mm-hmm. Now, what was it like to work on a show that suddenly explodes? As you know, back then it was very popular. Tabloids, like every week, every day, entertainment shows talking about the show. So what was it like then?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, the truth is that, you learn that, after an explosion, there can be collateral damage. And for us, it was being nominated for 16 Emmys and winning none. But we had fun at the show. We all got to go and get dressed up. Wardrobe dressed us up. David Willis was my date. I mean, it was really fun. But yeah, that's kind of, I mean, and it was exciting. But then you would read things and you go, but that didn't happen. Or that's not the way that happened. Mm-hmm. And you realize that somebody on set was talking to somebody not on set, and, maybe embellishing or maybe making some money telling behind the scenes stories. I don't really know, but, it was fun to be a part of television history. I can tell you that. Mm-hmm. And we all were. No matter, like I said, no matter what you did, you were part of the success of the show.
And created a genre, the dramedy genre pretty much was created because of Moonlighting.
Absolutely. And breaking the fourth wall, which, Cybill had said, she did it once and it didn't work, but Bruce, it worked perfectly for. And we didn't use it all the time. And it was effective when we did. And it was fun and it engaged the audience. And, that's one thing Glenn and the writers understood, is that the audience, they want to be brought in. Mm-hmm. I mean, here we are, how many years later, talking about a TV show that, I'll be honest, I didn't know anybody cared about. And then, when I first I did an interview in 2005, I think. And then a few months ago, I was contacted by somebody about, women who worked on TV shows in the 80s. And she says, oh, no, there's a Moonlighting, everybody's, and I'm like, really? And then you guys, and so I love that. I love that. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. It was like a big obsession, national obsession at the time, a phenomenon. So, now, we're getting to some of the episodes and scripts. But before we get into the episodes, what do you think are the most critical elements of a successful script?
Good writers who understand the characters, and the end game. Mm-hmm. Like I said before, Moonlighting was an incubator. A highly creative, like, laboratory where, sometimes you did an experiment and it worked and sometimes it didn't, but you were always allowed to experiment, and mm-hmm. somebody would listen. Their creative sessions were legendary, honestly. So to me, a good script is about good writers who understand what they're writing about. Mm-hmm. And we didn't have any hacks.
Speaking of Endgame, how would you have had Maddie and David's story end on the show?
I thought about that question so many times when you first sent it to me, and I thought, I didn't imagine it ending any other way than it did, based on the way it went. That, I know that sounds weird, but I'm not much of a romantic where they would end up together and grow old together and be looking back on. I don't think that was what their relationship was. I think their relationship was about teaching each other something about themselves, mm-hmm. that nobody else could have taught them. and going through some life experiences together that you can never deny, and it becomes a part of you. So I was okay with it. And when we shot that scene, I mean, I was crying, obviously, when they both got into their cars. But it wasn't necessarily, it was kind of sad because I was going to miss my family, but I thought, hey, they freaking ended it. And then somebody said, well, did they? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I could see them as a couple trying. I mean, I don't see it as them as a super romantic couple, but I could see them at least telling the audience we're going to try, and it could have ended that way.
Yeah, I think people were really disappointed in the we're done aspect of it.
Right.
And
oh yeah.
Yeah, I understand that because of the investment that people made. And you're 100% right. But it's just, for me, I don't know. I just didn't have those expectations. But
okay. A question which you may not know since you weren't in a writer's room. Did they ever talk about a Halloween themed episode?
Not that I know of, but it was always Halloween on Moonlighting. Somebody was always in a costume.
Or a dress.
Oh yeah, right. So that's a good one. I don't know.
Now, you gave us you gave us a partial list of your favorite episodes. Can you tell us what you remember from each one? The first one was Big Man on Mulberry Street.
I didn't know that could be television. First of all, we had Phil Ramone doing the music. Sandal Bergman, when she opened that door, that's Cybill. When Sandal Bergman opened that thing and comes out, and you just go, what just happened? And the dance number, and just the choreography was spectacular. Stanley Donen, did the choreography. And of course, Karen Hall wrote it, but I gained a lot of respect for Bruce and Cybill's talent in this episode, because they totally immersed themselves. And it was just, there was something about it. I don't know but when I hear Big Man on Mulberry Street, it takes me right back to that stage,
Yeah, it's not just the dance sequence; it's just the scenes between them, especially in the hotel. They're like two beautiful scenes when David walks to his hotel room and finds her sitting on the bed, and then the other scene is when he's telling his story to her, how he met his wife.
His wife, yeah.
Had a baby and lost the baby. I mean, I think those two scenes were brilliant.
The whole thing was, I mean, it told a story, and it told the story in a really unique way.
Yeah, and a little bit more into their characters. It delved more into their characters.
Yeah, I agree. But they were able to reveal themselves through other characters.
Yes.
Which is interesting,
Now, the other episode, well, we did discuss Atomic Shakespeare. That was one of your episodes. The other episode was The Dream Sequence Always Rings Twice.
Yeah.
What do you remember about that one?
Yeah, Deborah and Carl. I mean, reading the script, I thought, how do you write this? And then putting it on the screen. But again, Cybill, I mean, her singing, just everything about her was, I don't know. I just was in awe of her versatility. Bruce, I expected to shine. But for me, this really was a turning point, I thought, for Maddie's character, Cybill, as an actress. It showed what we'd seen before, but not necessarily in Moonlighting, because she was, David's sidekick, basically, and not here, not here.
Yeah, and then she could be a film. She could be a film fatale.
She was a femme fatale,
Yeah.
and I mean, look at the lighting. I mean, her makeup, her wardrobe, but I loved his ward. I mean, just all of it. It was just great. Yeah, it's just a beautiful. Those 3 episodes. I mean, can you imagine? Seriously, could you imagine 3 episodes like that being on the air today, shot on film?
No. And the other episode you mentioned was Every Father's Daughter is a Virgin. So
yeah, I think did we talk about that, or?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. You mentioned, so that was. And do you have any others that you want to?
Well, I love the clip show. I mean, I know people hated it but it made me laugh. And Rona Barrett was 100% in. And some of the, references that were made were very funny. So I like that. And that was kudos to Artie and Phil and the editing team. Because when you look at it, that was a lot of work put into that thing. I also liked Camille because of the ending, and Whoopi. We had Whoopi, that was awesome. And It's a Wonderful Life. I think Glenn wrote that. It's a Wonderful Job, right?
Yeah, that was Deborah Frank, actually, I think.
Oh, was it Deborah?
Yeah, and Carl Sauter.
The way they, I don't know, the way they told the story and the way Cybill let her story be told, I thought was really, really powerful. And so to me, and then, Blonde on Blonde, because we had Mark Harmon, and of course, I'm curious.
Donna Dixon was in that episode too.
She's. I mean, how beautiful was she? Oh my gosh. Yeah, I loved her. She was great. And of course, I Am Curious, Maddie. Although I thought to myself, now what? After that episode.
Yeah, well, it could have been salvaged, but there was so much going on at the time. In terms of what was going on outside, what in personal lives, Cybill being pregnant and Bruce breaking his shoulder, and then just her, having this film season 4 with them apart from each other, and then you had a writer's strike. It was just a lot.
It was a lot.
Yeah, it just got off track. It got off track. Now, were there any big Hollywood stars at the time that were being considered for guest stars, or maybe it didn't happen? I know when we talked to Artie back in the day for our fanzine, he said that was Frank Sinatra wanted to be on the show.
I've never heard that story. Oh my God, Frank Sinatra, can you imagine? But I didn't expect. I mean, when you look back, we had the Temptations. We had Ray Charles. I know I'll forget a ton of people, but we had Orson Welles, who I think we killed, but that's a whole other story. And Ken McMillan, who I'd worked with on the Pope of Greenwich Village, who was a wonderful actor. And, Whoopi, of course, Timothy Leary. It's just like, I don't, some of our co-stars, Charlie Rocket. I mean, we had some really great people on that show. So, I mean, every day somebody would say, oh, guess who's going to be in this episode? And it was always somebody who go, yay, I didn't really think about, is there anybody we missed? Because we sure had a mishmash.
Should have had Billy Joel on and Al Jarreau.
Well, you know what? That's very true.
Yeah, those would have been fun cameos.
We probably couldn't have afforded either one of them.
Now, you said you geeked out over Eva Marie Saint. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, I love movies, and Eva Marie Saint was an actress. she's not a movie star. She was an Oscar-winning actress. I mean, when you think about, On the Waterfront, I mean, really? North by Northwest. What else did she do?
I know she did Raintree County.
Which I love because of Montgomery Cliff. I was a big Montgomery Cliff fan.
Yeah,
I know it was Hatful of Rain, which was the other one that I really, really loved. So, it's like anytime you meet somebody that you idolize, like when I met Elizabeth Taylor and I almost embarrassed myself. Well, I did embarrass myself, but with Eva Marie Saint, she was just so lovely and just, I don't know. To me, it was one of those times when you just go, wow, and you could tell there's a difference between a movie star and an actress.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, she was class.
Total class. So yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Okay, well, I touched on this a little bit before, but what are your favorite memories discussing Moonlighting madness, the obsession we had? Any memories on the craziness surrounding the show that you personally experienced?
I mean, yeah, it was hard not to be in the middle of it, but I mean, a weird story is I heard from somebody I went to high school with that I really didn't know. And she sent me this letter saying that if I could, and a mug from a radio station in Cleveland, I think it was. And if I could put the mug on David's desk and Moonlighting, she'd win $500. And needless to say, I sent the mug back and did not do that. But,
or even the feedback you got. I mean, you definitely got feedback from the fans, like the kiss in the garage, in Witness, or maybe the phone calls coming in with Walter.
Well, we got a lot of hate mail after Walter Bishop. That I remember. And I felt akin to some of it. I got it. I understood it. But Dennis is such a great guy. And having him around was such a pleasure that I didn't want them to hate him. And, we got, we would get feedback on, too much of this or not enough of this. It was hard to, I think, actually, but for me, I think I would say 85% of the feedback that we got was positive. People who loved the show, had good things to say about it, or would just say, I don't think Maddie or David would do that. And I always was struck by that, because people are invested. I think that's important. But, there was a lot of feedback. You can't respond to all of it clearly. And then, in my world, I mean, when somebody would say, what do you do? I work on Moonlighting. Oh my God, and I would always be like, it's, what do you say? Tell me something about Moonlighting. It's my job. I don't know what to say, anyway.
Well, Deborah Frank told us a story that when she was in labor, when the nurses found out, the doctors and nurses found out she worked on Moonlighting, that the only one that talked to her about the show and asking about what Bruce and Cybill were like. So that was a pretty funny.
Oh, I mean, yeah, you would get that. It's like, is Cybill really this, or is Bruce that? And it's like, no, but they were being fed, National Enquirer information, or, there were in the 80s, there were, we still had the gossip columnists and, they were on a big show, and anytime you make a splash, somebody wants to hold your head underwater.
Yeah. I was saying earlier to other people that we interviewed that television was so different back then. We only had 3 networks. Everybody watched their TV shows at the same time. Everybody had to be home at the same time, and everybody talked about the shows they watched the following day. It's just so different now.
No, that's an excellent point. I mean, what was it? 60 million people watched I Am Curious Maddie.
Mhm.
That's
Yep.
a lot of freaking people, but there was nowhere else to go. I mean, it was Tuesday night, and that's where you went. You went to, ABC. So, but it is a very good point. Is now I don't, there's so much content out there. It's not, it's impossible. It's just impossible.
It's
So-
so different now.
Yeah, it's very different. But I have to say that, I'm still working in TV, which I basically, Moonlighting was my first and last TV for 30 years until I got on another show. And, it reminds me of Moonlighting in a little bit of ways that they're very inclusive and everybody's job is respected. So, I'm fortunate that those have always that's been my experience, because I know that's not normally the way it goes.
So now the show's been streaming since October. What are your feelings about it? What are your thoughts about the show finally being available?
I'm excited because my great niece and nephews have never seen it. And so I told them to start watching at season 3. Middle of season 2, maybe. But I'm excited about that. I so appreciate what the whole Moonlighting underworld has been doing. I mean, you all were part of getting it on Hulu, correct?
On DVD, actually, in 2005. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And I love that. I just think that's, and the fact that, they straightened out the music part or whatever they did. I think they replaced the music, because I watched a clip the other day and I thought that wasn't the song we used. It was in a bowling alley. And I think we used Nowhere to Run, Nowhere to Hide, but that wasn't the song that was in there. They had replaced it. But go ahead.
Yeah, but Glenn got it out on Hulu.
Yeah.
It was Glenn's effort to get it out on streaming. But
well, because we had a reunion a few years ago with Glenn, Roger, Jeff, and Ron. I think I know Deborah was there. Christine Sheeks, Shira Sheeks, Melissa Jeleno, who started from the pilot all the way through. She was Glenn's assistant, and then she became Jay's assistant. And, maybe 25, 30 of us. And it was wonderful to see everybody. It was just, I don't know, we're all so lucky to have been a part of that. And I just hope that everyone has the kind of memories that I have. I'm not, look, I don't stick my head in the sand. I know that it was chaotic and crazy at times. But I also know that it was an incredible experience where I got to spread my wings and I got to watch really smart people work smart, and that's a gift, especially in this town.
It definitely prepared you for your career, so with your path to where you are now.
Yeah, it's true. I pay homage to my experience at Moonlighting all the time, because it was I was mentored, which is very, very important. I wasn't treated like a woman, and in the 80s, believe me, it was not pretty. It was not pretty. So I'm grateful. But you know what? I did the work too, and I always showed up. And I'm proud of what I did. So it's a win-win. That's the way it should be.
So I'm going to close out the last few questions. Can you show that awesome poster behind you?
Oh, yes.
Aw, I love that picture.
Isn't it great?
It's awesome.
Yeah, as I was telling you, I had that in my office too back in the day. I wish I never got rid of it.
This thing has moved. It's been with me the whole time. But I also have a photo that Bruce signed I still have our moonlighting jacket that they gave to us, as a wrap gift, the moonlighting duffel bag. Melissa and we used to do the, our wrap parties. Those were legendary, our wrap parties. Freddie Snakeskin, Jed the Fish, music by, partying, dancing. I mean, we would just have the best time. We did one of our parties on the set of Big Man and Big Trouble in Little Chinatown.
Yes.
Little China. I think that's on the Fox lot. We had, I have a lot of memories and some pretty cool photos. So yeah, it was a good thing.
So you worked for the WWE at one point?
No, actually, Steve Austin, Stone Cold Steve Austin, is a client of mine.
Oh.
And so I work with him. I met him on the Expendables, the movie Expendables.
Okay.
And so I mean, I've been to quite a few WWE events, and I grew up watching studio wrestling with Bruno Sammartino 100,000 years ago. It was entertainment, and so when I met Steve, I was like, oh my God, I love this guy. He's pretty great. So yeah.
Cool. I grew up watching, WWE superstars on Saturday mornings, and I was the only girl in the family. So what the boys watched, you watched. So.
Yeah. That's awesome. That is awesome. Listen. A lot of women love wrestling. You go to those events, and it's a great mixture, and it's just fun. It
is. Yeah.
And they really entertain. And Steve, like I said, he's just a great guy. I really love working with him.
Did you get to meet any of the other wrestlers?
Well, I actually worked on a movie many years ago for Warner Brothers, and most of the Diamond Dallas Page, oh gosh, I can't even remember all the actors that were in it, all the wrestlers, but we had a lot of the wrestlers in the film because it was about wrestling. It was, oh gosh, this is terrible that I brought something up that I can't even remember who the heck I'm talking about. But yeah, I met a lot of them then. Mysterio was in it. And so when I went to a WWE event with Steve and I met Mysterio, I brought that up, and Dallas, Steve remained friends with him. And so, I mentioned that, I was the publicist on that movie, and they had a blast. It was, it was a lot of fun, but it was a little bit crazy. But I like those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been to WrestleMania and Survivor Series and SummerSlam. Yeah.
Yeah, WrestleMania, that is that's some crazy stuff there. But I've been to a couple, and it's been fun. It's been really fun.
Yeah, it's really fun.
And now The Rock is back.
Oh, really? Again?
Yep.
Oh, wow. So are there any other projects that you're working on that you want to share with us?
No, I mean, we start filming season 4 of the morning show for Apple with Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon in early July, and that'll take me through November, I think.
Oh, John Hamm is in the show now too, right? John Hamm?
He was in last season, yes.
Okay. Big fan.
Steve Carell. We've had quite a. It's a really fun show to work on. Again, another creative. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I still work with Steve and a couple other people, but yeah, I'm happy to still be working and having some fun. And I love movie making, and I'm the luckiest girl in the world, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you lived your dream.
Still trying.
Yep.
So
What an incredible career in life.
yeah, well, it's I just feel that life is an adventure, and sometimes we get caught up in thinking that that it isn't, and it is. And I'm not afraid of adventure. I mean, again, I'm the experiment. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I did want to say thank you to both of you for everything that you've done,
Thank
and
you.
for doing these. And it's so exciting. I'm so happy I found this world, because I started reading some of the stuff, and I joined the Facebook page, and I'm like, oh my God, these people are serious.
Oh, yeah, we are very serious, passionate fans. They write fan fiction, they create music videos, they talk, they really do deep dives on episodes and even scenes and conversation. It's amazing.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. So I'll be, I'm going to watch a few episodes. I'm going on vacation, so I'm going to watch some episodes and take a walk down memory lane, as David would say. And
thanks for the memories.
But I appreciate you reaching out to me. I hope that I didn't disappoint, but I can tell you none of it was a disappointment for me. It's this is one of those periods in your life where you go, things would have been a lot different had one little thing not happened. And that one little thing was Bruce Willis asking Glenn to put this girl he didn't really know, but he knew who I was. I mean, he knew of me, but we didn't hang out. We just drank together. Anyway, there's that. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cheryl.
Thank you. And don't be afraid to post on our group.
I will not be afraid to post, and you'll let me know when this is up, and then I'll post it on my social media.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. Bye.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good night. Bye-bye.